I'd like to call this March Monthly Committee of the Whole meeting to order for the Duluth Public School Board. I'll now turn it over to the clerk for roll call.
Member Banks.
Here.
Chair Derek Eater.
Present.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Vice Chair Lowfold.
Here.
I am Clerk Meixel. I am here. Treasurer Sadowski.
Here.
Member Williams is excused. Superintendent Magus.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Present.
Deputy Clerk Zunich.
Present.
And Assistant Brown.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Thank you, clerk. We will now move on to turning it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Thank you, Board. And as you can tell, we have guests with us. We have two presentations for the Board and the community tonight. And we are just really glad that they are here. So first up, we're going to have the Denfeld Orchestra led by Director Samantha Amos. She will introduce the students at some point, but we're going to turn it over to them for a performance, and then we have another performance by our Ordinese Choir led by Gunnar Molstad, and they will perform shortly after. So I'll turn it over for the performance.
So these are some members of the Denfeld Symphony Orchestra. We have one selection for each day. This is Wildfire by Catherine Graysinger.
What an outstanding way to kick off Music in the School Month. Would you like to introduce the group?
Sure. We've got Lily Ralph, we've got Alex Johnson, we've got Noah Johnson, not related, and David Sandy.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gunnar Molstad, current choir teacher at Meridian East Middle School. You can come right back. We'll be waiting.
Sorry.
We are going to sing a selection from our midwinter concert that we just had, February 12th. So it's been a couple weeks. This song is special because the students selected this piece. We have 92 students in this grade. It's split across 2 sections. These students are all from our 62-person section. And I think it was one of the students in your group that selected this piece. And yeah, so this is 1,000 Years by David Hodges and Christina Perry. You may know it from the motion picture Twilight, arranged by Andy Beck. That wasn't right. Let's try it again. It's been a while since I practiced this thing.
Outstanding.
And this is Gabby Scudamore and AC Graber, Harucham, and Teek Steffes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and we will be publicizing this on our Duluth Public Schools Facebook page, and so we just want to say thanks. And the arts are incredibly important, and music in particular is just incredibly important, so we are grateful to celebrate music in the schools.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Don't mind me, I have to pack all this stuff away and put it.
We understand, we truly appreciate it. So board, thank you for being flexible and allowing our performance today. Actually, they put a smile on my face because, as you know, we walk into this work and do a lot of challenging things, and seeing students perform really just grounds us and reminds us of why we do this work. So I want to again thank the team, thank the students for joining us tonight, and I appreciate it. While we are getting ourselves set up, we have a full agenda today, so I want to bring up, under the category of supporting every student, we have an update related to the READ Act professional development. If we can have Gretchen King, come on up. Thank you, Gretchen.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I'm here to give an update for you. Do I keep my finger down on the button the whole time? Okay, all right, thanks. To give you an update on the READ Act. So Phase 2 is the newest thing that we've had to start this year, but we already have been doing a lot to meet the requirements of the READ Act. So the staff began Phase 1 last year in the letters training, and mandated in that program of training was special education staff, K-12, reading interventionists, our preschool through third grade teachers, and fourth and fifth grade teachers had the option to do the training or to wait until Phase 2. And then we had 5 local trainers that were facilitating the in-person sessions. We've done a lot of work with this group. We also had early childhood teachers that were involved in Phase 1. So we had 44 staff that completed the early childhood program. 1 teacher is currently in the program and finishing this year, so that will make 45. 273 elementary, special ed, and reading interventionists have completed Phase 1 letters. 55 staff, more staff will complete this spring, and then we have 53 staff that will complete next year, in addition to any new staff that we hire that could possibly require the training in the fall for Phase 1. So a new element we had to implement this year was structured literacy professional development for paraprofessionals. So the READ Act included language that said we needed to train all of our support staff that could be involved with students interacting with literacy. And they had an 8-hour program that was created by the Minnesota Department of Ed in partnership with the regional literacy networks. And that training had 4 modules: the theory, phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension. So we had 5 local trainers here in the district that provided that training on professional development days for paraprofessionals starting in August. We did sessions in November, December, January, yesterday in March, and then we will continue in May. So when I submitted this last week, this was before yesterday's training. So after yesterday's training, we now have 217 fully trained paraprofessionals in our district in structured literacy. And we have about 77 left to finish. So the next pieces I'm going to talk about are Phase 2 in the legislation, which means training our secondary teachers and 4th and 5th grade teachers who weren't already trained in structured literacy. And Phase 2 was announced in November, and there were 4 different programs that we could review and pick from, and we picked the program called Strive TLC. It stands for Teachers, Learning, and Coaches, and TLC for teachers. It's a very teacher-focused training with a lot of strategies that teachers will be able to use right away from their very first interaction with the content. We're also doing this training during our PD days. So we're going to start the training in May, and then we will do it next year on all the remaining PD days. It's about 35 hours of training. There are online modules that the participants watch, and then they interact with through activities. The learning is broken into 7 different modules, and there are 3 45-minute sessions that will be led by local facilitators. So we are going to have local staff go through the train the trainer sessions and then become facilitators for those live sessions. We are already working in getting our some middle school interventionists signed up for that training and looking into some other people too that could assist with that. What's a little bit different, I should have mentioned, we're doing this during our PD days. We're also bringing all the participants together to do the asynchronous modules. So instead of the teachers all being in their own little space with the computer and just doing the learning alone, kind of in a silo, we're going to have this be more interactive and all together and have it be collaborative with all the teachers. So then when they're doing the activities, they can actually be interacting with each other and seeing how it's going to incorporate into their instruction and their plans. So this is just a list of all the staff that are required to do the Phase 2 training.
Can I ask you? Okay.
Yes, Member Lafricamp?
How many I'm sorry if I missed it, how many teachers are going to be going through the secondary? And then another question I had, the 5 local leaders you said that are already trained, are they teachers within our district?
We do, we have 5 leaders that have facilitated letters, and then we have 5 other leaders who have facilitated the paraprofessional training. Those are all people in our district. Those might not be the same people, probably won't be the same people that are facilitating the training for secondary, because we wanted colleagues from the secondary space that are working in that area, have that experience and that lens to be leading the teachers. Was there another question I missed, or was that?
How many?
Oh, I think that's on the next.
Oh, it's on the
Might be in the next slide. It's about 42. 42 staff are required to do the Phase 2 training. We actually have more staff than that fit that list of requirements, but we had several middle school teachers who did Phase 1, and they did the letters training. So since they've already done letters training, then they don't do this round of training. The Phase 2 Strive training is more geared towards secondary education, though. We will include principals at the secondary level, assistant principals and deans in this training alongside their staff, even though they weren't specifically named in the list from the state of Minnesota.
Member Lafricamp, you still have your light on? Okay, just want to make sure. Thanks.
And on this slide, I just listed what our goals were in choosing this particular program. We wanted our staff to be informed in the latest science of reading, new research that has come out maybe since they were trained in their college education. We also wanted them trained in data gathering processes and analyzing that data. There's some new testing that's been come out with the READ Act, so that will be part of this training. And Strive was really unique in tailoring the instruction around what our Minnesota standards were, what our MCA4 looks like, and what the CAPTE Read Basics information is from that round of screening. It also had a really nice potential for training more than just the teachers that were listed in the READ Act. So Shannon, we can go to the next slide. Yep. They also offer a disciplinary literacy course, which is a shortened version of the full training that the other 42 staff will be part of. It's an 8.5-hour course that's focused on disciplinary literacy. So they get the same textbook that the 42 staff would get that are ELA teachers. They get the same access to all of the learning strategies, like there's a platform where you can go in and try to find some learning strategies to help you with specific areas of literacy. And then they will do the very first module together along with the ELA teachers for 8.5 hours. It's all geared toward supporting their students in their content area classes. So we're going to do this training, you can go to the next slide, Shannon, for about 100 core content area teachers in middle school and high school. These are our science, social studies, and math teachers.
Superintendent Magus?
Yes, just to explain for the board and public, some of you know and some of you don't. So there's what is disciplinary literacy, and basically we used to do work called content area literacy, which was basically how do you read about your content. But disciplinary literacy takes it kind of a step further, where it focuses on how do you read about and how do you understand the content, because it's not necessarily always just reading text. It could be understanding graphs in science. It could be understanding maps in geography. So really, what is the literacy that is needed for each particular content area? And it can be very effective with with our teachers in general, because it's basically how do you make your content more approachable and engaging and accessible.
Thank you.
Was
So-
that right?
Yes, that's right. I was going to say, it's going to help those teachers in those unique areas learn strategies to support their students. So it's going to have an effect beyond literacy. It's going to affect students' learning in all these other content areas. And these are the modules and the time commitment that will be asked from our teachers. The highlighted areas will be the places where we have all of the content teachers along with the English language arts teachers working together. Thank you. I'm really excited for this, for the district, for all the opportunities for the teachers to collaborate and have this information.
Member Lawford Kemp?
Thank you. It's really great having this presentation, and, you know, as we've all lobbied for the READ Act and more funding for it and all of that, and just seeing how we're playing it out in our district, so really appreciate that. So the approximately 35 hours of training, did I hear you right saying that most of that will be happening in the professional development days? That
Correct. We have it all scheduled out. We'll start this May and finish May of 2027.
Okay, excellent. Excellent use of the professional development days. Thank you.
Member Meixel?
Thank you so much for being here and updating us on this important topic. Question about our paraprofessionals that we've fully trained, which is so wonderful. You said 217 are currently trained and 77 left to finish. What areas are those paras working in? Are those all of our paras? Like,
Almost all of our paras. We really believed that literacy is happening all day long in all spaces, in conversations, you know. There's so many different opportunities that you can just support a student, either with vocabulary or sounds or in conversational turns. So we wanted our paras to have all of that knowledge. Plus, we know that staff is somewhat fluid. They might be working in a space in the fall that they're not working in the spring, or even this year compared to next year, because it's a one-time training. They don't redo this training every year. So they might be working in the high school this year, but might be in elementary school next year. So we wanted them to have that whole repertoire in their toolbox.
I have one more question. So it's been a while since I looked at our READ Act policy and the state statute that comes along with it. Are we meeting all of our deadlines by the appropriate times?
We are. We're a little ahead with the para support.
And in terms of our funding, that's all still coming from the state for these levels of training? And is it future employees that we then as a district have to pay for ourselves, or are we still getting funding from the state for that?
What in the phase 2 that I just described for the teachers that are listed as mandated, that 42, the state will pay for their training. We will be paying for the training for the extra core content teachers because we feel it's really important for them to have.
Okay, and then for any future teachers that are hired, that are in the required area, is the state going to foot the bill for that, or is that something the district
They're
has to?
saying it's going to be on the district.
Okay, and so it's a requirement from the state that we
going to
train
be-
our teachers to do this for all good reasons, right? We want to increase our literacy, but it's something that the district then has to foot the bill for, that the state is telling us we have to do. Okay, thank
It
you.
is tied to teacher licensure and relicensure starting in 2027. At my most recent REDAC meeting with MDE, they reminded all of us that the legislature is in session right now. And there could be changes this spring. So they did say, stay posted on all things, so.
Does, Simone, if you can be ready to share related to our professional development resources that we receive, as well as the literacy aid that we do receive as a district. So of course, it's never enough, but we do receive some funds to support professional development, and we do receive some funds for literacy instruction as well. And so Simone, can you just share what those pots of monies are?
Sure. Professional development money is 2% of our general aid, and that is pulled aside by MDE. I don't have to do any of that math. It's on a separate line item, even on our levy. And as far as our literacy, we have spent our money, but we do have a small pocket that we've put aside in our fund balance that we are going to be paying for some of this work. So I have shared that with the team as well. So we hope to have that taken care of by some monies that we are sitting on. But now we have to find out what's going to happen with the legislative session. And if this grows bigger and bigger and it's unfunded, well, then it's going to have to be paid for by us.
I'm not sure who was first, so I'll go with
I think Member Lafleur-Kemp was.
You know what, I've asked a question, go ahead and I'll come back.
Member Sadowski, and then
I'm just curious if, and maybe no one in this meeting knows the answer to this question, but if it's starting to be wrapped up into required for licensure, do we know what colleges are doing to make sure that our teachers are prepared coming into our district? And will we have to keep training them, or are they going to come in with this knowledge? And then I have one more question after. I'll let you answer that one.
MDE has a training program for college professors. So they can take that training for free to improve their instruction. And then MDE is going and evaluating the colleges. And they said that they have found 4 that they are going to say are good enough, they qualify. So their graduates coming out of those 4 will not, just 4, will not need to do this training. But that's an ongoing process, so it's not going to stop. They're going to keep working, and hopefully that will build. And that's not unique to Minnesota. It's happening at states all
That's
around.
good to hear. Thank you for that. And then my next question was around I think I'm on page 15 here, but for the synchronous session, I see synchronous session, then I see a couple optional model active participation, and then for dyslexia. Can you
Yes.
talk more about why those are optional, or maybe they're kind of choice? You take one year and the next year, or can you talk a little more about that?
Sure, we kind of didn't determine them as optional. They were optional by MDE. They said that those were optional courses that Strive offers, and Strive offered to give them to us for free. So we're kind of trying to determine how we want to best use those. Strive even suggested we could even use them like in staff meetings or PLCs or district PLCs, and have it be all staff together with the principal and just interacting with some of the content. So it's actually like a little bonus with some flexibility. So the teachers don't have to complete that to meet the requirement, but they do get to complete it. So we will use them, we just haven't determined how yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Member Lowfoot?
So Member Zadowski actually asked the question too about what are our teachers that are coming out of an education degree at colleges getting in this area. And in actuality, I've listened to some of the wrap-up sessions so far at our Capitol, and there is a bill currently in the House file for higher ed. So I'm not necessarily listening to it, but it is in the higher ed committees, and I'll kind of dig that up a little bit. That is actually a bill trying to push colleges to mandate that they teach this. So maybe we'll have more than 4, but, let's not get out there before that. But it would be nice, because that's just a never-ending funding stream if we're always needing to educate our teachers coming into our district. And then I would just love to check in with Simone, maybe with you too, before, I'm going down to the Capitol with MSBA next week, this coming Monday, a week from yesterday. And I would love a kind of a clear understanding of how to advocate for this funding that we now are doing, just some kind of kernel of stuff, or a statistic or a data, and maybe even a story that we know that makes our struggle even harder here in Duluth because of that, because well, the fact that, I think the story is that we are going above and beyond the money we're getting from the state to service the rest of our staff, because we believe that literacy is a key to graduation rates and a key to success. So that could be the story. And then, but we also are reducing our budget in a lot of other areas. So, any help they can give us in that would be great. So thank you.
Superintendent Magus, and then Member Sadowski.
And I apologize for stepping out a second. My son is traveling, and I just needed to make sure everything was going all right. But what I wanted to say is some good news. The state budget is looking a little better than we thought. Rather than having a deficit, it looks like we have about $3.7 billion more than we thought, and there won't be a deficit in the coming years. So I think when we think about things like our MSBA, MASA day at the Capitol on Monday, and think about all the lobbying work we're going to be doing during Duluth St. Louis County days, I really think we have to hone our message on this. And I also just was looking at an AMSD. There was a survey being done. It doesn't include all the data because there are still a couple schools that were finishing putting their data in. But if you think about the budget shortfalls across the state with just in AMSD, they have over $217 million of funding shortfalls. So almost every district, it's 10 million, it's 5 million, it's 4 million, it's 12 million. You hear about Minneapolis Public Schools, it's 50. So there's a lot of work that we need to do to advocate to make sure that we have funding for the important things like foundations and reading. And I'm glad that the board put that together as part of their legislative platform. It shows that you're seeking resources to support the key strategies for our students. And I want to say thank you to you. Literacy is the most important thing that we can do. Everything is important, but without a foundation of literacy, we will have nothing. So thank you.
I'm going to come to you, Member Laffer-Kim, because Member Sadowski says she will pass.
Okay, great, thank you. And yeah, thank you, Gretchen. I had some similar questions that were asked, but I guess a couple other thoughts. One is, there's actually 5 of us that will be going down to the lobby day on Monday. So any information, some talking points would be wonderful. And certainly I know I'm going to use some of the information from here. So thank you for it being so complete. We and the School Board Association, as part of our legislative platform, has an aspect of more funding for the READ Act for statewide, so for schools. So I appreciate that. I was curious, and I'm really appreciative of how comprehensive, from the paras, from early childhood, that are getting trained, but that we're including 10 principals, assistant principals, and deans, even though that's not required. And so how did that come about? And I want to thank the leadership of the schools for being a part of the training. I think that's really important. So I'm just curious how that came about. And is that kind of what's happening in other districts?
I think they're just very strong leaders. They were excited. They wanted to do it. They wanted to do it right away themselves. In their dream world, they wanted every adult in their school to be trained. Is what they wanted. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Would it be possible, either from the trainers or to just do, we each could do a reach out to teachers we know to get some quotes, but to maybe throw out and get a few quotes or something that we could use about how valuable the training was, and it would be great from like preschool to the paras to kind of different people who are getting the training.
Are you looking for that before Monday?
Uh-huh.
That's fine, I just want to make sure I knew the timeline.
You know, just a you know, a few. That would be really wonderful. Thank you.
Comment on your question too about, why are our principals part of this? And I think that one of the core values we have as a district, and one of the things that foundationally we work on through our directors of secondary and elementary, as well as our assistant superintendent, is a structure and a premise that we need to make sure that we're supporting all of our leaders well, and that we're helping them develop as instructional leaders. A lot of districts sometimes have more of a managerial leader, or principals taking care of the daily business of what's going on, and instruction is kind of an aside. But here in Duluth Public Schools, we've worked really hard to put systems and structures in place, partly through training with the Wallace Foundation and with Center for Educational Leadership, of how do we support our principals. And so it's about cultivating that desire to not just run a building, but think about how am I going to be the lead learner in my building, and how am I going to know literacy, and how am I going to carry that forward. So I'm grateful for everybody involved.
Thank you. Seeing no, I see.
Just one
Only
more
because it's
follow-up. I
hidden
was
behind
trying
that.
to Google really
Member
quick,
Lopperkin.
Strive, TLC, and what does Strive stand for? I'm sorry if you said that. And then is that like a company based in Minnesota that supports our MTSS work? Is that how I'm understanding it?
I don't think STRIVE itself is an acronym. I think it means, you're striving for literacy and working with a term that's used now for a lot of students who we would say are struggling with reading. We say that they're striving readers. The TLC part after the word strive stands for teachers, leaders, coaches, tender, loving care for teachers. And what was the other question you had?
The company that's based here in Minnesota that's really working to support, overall the MTSS work, but also overall the READ Act?
They are not a Minnesota company. The only Minnesota company that was approved as one of the 4 was Carry All, and it was considerably more time and more expensive. It wasn't fully complete yet. And when the regional literacy networks were able to try out the different programs, found that it was a little glitchy. But the regional literacy network tried out the STRIVE program and found that it was highly aligned to Minnesota MTSS. And all of the information that they have shared with us from STRIVE say that they are specifically aligning the program to Minnesota MTSS, MCA4, Captive Read Basics, and the 2020 Minnesota ELA standards. They are out of Oregon, I think is how they pronounce it in Oregon. And they've done a lot of work out west in some states that have been a little ahead of us in their literacy initiatives.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
All right, next up we have our coordinator for professional development, Annie Schilling. She will provide an update related to the professional development that we are providing this school year, as well as give you a peek into next year's professional development that's being organized.
Hello. Again, I'm Annie Schilling. I am the Professional Development Coordinator for the district. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's exciting to be able to give you a little bit of a wrap-up of what we've done so far. We have one all-staff professional development day left this year, but I just wanted to give you a comprehensive look at what we've accomplished so far this year. So when I took a look at the calendar for the professional development days this year, initially, May the 4th stuck out, and it immediately made me think, well, we definitely need to have an outer space theme. So here we are with Blast Off. Blast, B-L-A-S-T, you can go all stand for our North Stars. So B, belonging. Fostering through the professional development days, we've been working on trainings that help staff foster a sense of belonging, that staff being able to foster a sense of belonging for students. It goes down to everything from academic success to attendance to family engagement. It's incredibly important. L, literacy. So we just had the pleasure of listening to Gretchen talk about the literacy and the importance of literacy and its reflection in our state statutes with the READ Act. So there's been a lot of literacy work. A, attendance. This is always an important initiative. It's a complex one. There are many factors that go into an individual student wanting to attend school. All of these focuses are intertwined, and they've been a focus throughout our professional development days. S, for safety. Of course, safety is of the utmost importance, and we've had a number of safety trainings throughout our professional development days this year, from administration to staff, to clericals, to bus drivers, to our teaching staff. Everyone has gotten safety trainings throughout this year. And then T, teamwork. Again, how do we work collaboratively as teams? How do we understand the importance of each one of the teams, not just the teaching staff, everyone, our paraprofessionals, everyone has been given priorities throughout these professional development days, and that's a reflection of our teamwork. So our first two professional development days start in August. So we had August 25th. We have two standalone paraprofessional days, training days a year. The paraprofessionals are also included in the other 5 training days that happen throughout the year. August 25th was a paraprofessional standalone day. And in August, we took time to make sure that they could complete their online vector trainings, safety trainings, getting paraprofessional staff caught up with CPI trainings, all of these required trainings that they need to get the year set up and ready to go. The next day followed up with the all-staff kickoff. Everybody was together. We had certified groups, elementary groups, working at grade level breakouts. We had secondary staff working in department level splits, because that is what benefits those 2 separate groups. Throughout the year, as much of that sort of tailoring for the job specifics, you'll see reflected. So you can go to the next one. Here's, for each one of the professional development days, I create a comprehensive catalog. I think the average, when I looked at the average size, is 64 pages. Each one of those pages represents a different team. So it's important. One of the tenets of adult learning is having it be relevant to your role in the district. And by splitting that to that level of detail, it helps with the relevance. This is the page. You can see that I've tied in the belonging, the attendance, the safety. So the training, you can see the reunification training. That's teamwork. That's also safety. AI training, we're focusing on safe usage of AI. So I make sure that one of the big questions is, why do we have to do this training? Why do we have to do this? So in these catalogs, they can, at a glance, see this is tied to attendance, this is tied to belonging. And that exists on all 64 of those pages. You can go to the next one. Here's our para pages. Paras began in August their journey with the literacy trainings. The literacy trainings were delivered in 4 two-hour modules across these training days throughout the year. They received their first module right away in August. And then they were able to join virtually for our keynote. You can go. Our keynote was a woman named Allison Fay. She is the executive director of the Jacob Wetterling Foundation. I happen to know her personally, and I know that she is a very down-to-earth, approachable woman doing extraordinary work. The feedback was very positive, and she was very, very inspiring across all teams. Okay, so that was August. We had a few months to get the school year off and running, and then we launched into a series of professional development days beginning in November. So November 3rd, we launched an initiative with the elementary certified staff. They split out into 3 different groups, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They were at elementary sites so that they could utilize their the elementary resources there. The breakouts were designed by our curriculum team and facilitated by principals, elementary principals. So it was an innovative way for those certified teachers to get some. It's extraordinarily beneficial for all second grade teachers to be in the same room, learning from each other, working with principals that they may not work with on a daily basis. So that was launched in November. You can. Also in November, we began our journey with Ricky White. Ricky White is an Indigenous educator. He has not only worked as an educator, he's been a principal, he's been a superintendent, and he came to Duluth. He's been here throughout the year, leading our teams in a presentation he calls Navigating Duluth's Cultural Landscape. This presentation was so comprehensive that it covered many objectives that we need to cover as a district. Our compliance, non-compliance with our American Indian education agreements with our tribal government, our equity plan. It also satisfied one of the certified teaching relicensure components, the big one, the cultural competency component. And not only that, the feedback has been amazing. He's inspiring, he's informative, and it's been a real, I'm going to use the word blessing to have him as part of our professional development days. The trainings are 7 hours in total. The secondary staff in November got the first half of that training. And the second half of their day was we're breaking out into department groups. So all science teachers got to work together, Phy-Ed teachers, music teachers. So that is a format that I carried over from last year that has been very beneficial. Those breakouts are led by our content specialists, so the content specialists of math. Because all of those departments have different needs, and those are the specialists that lead and facilitate those. So you can see all of that reflected on these pages. You can go to the next one. No, you're okay.
And I would second that Ricky White is just phenomenal, and he's one of the best presenters that I've worked with. He's very, very engaging, and also happens to be the brother of our former American Indian Ed coordinator, Sheila White. But
Yes.
he is
That's
just
how I was
outstanding.
able to make that valuable connection.
We're really, like, if you ever listen to him, you're riveted the whole time.
Riveted. Yeah, I feel so lucky that I have daily interaction with him because he is truly exceptional and inspiring. You can go to the next one. Okay, so then followed right at the heels of November 7th, we had December 8th. So a very similar format. The elementary schools were broken out into their grade levels at the elementary sites. Secondary groups worked in departments as well as received their second half of the Ricky White training. We also, throughout this, brought in information about artificial intelligence. There's also been, throughout the secondary trainings, based on the work by our grading alignment committee, as well as, and led by principals in our secondary groups. They've been doing work throughout the year on grading alignment, making sure that there's a uniformity across our grading practices. You can go again. Okay, and then, beginning on December 19th, we had our asynchronous PD day. So these PD days, we made the decision to have them be asynchronous, work at your own pace. The requirement was that this is for certified staff. They needed to complete 7.5 hours of training. So working with the curriculum departments, we found a number of virtual trainings that fell into our belonging, literacy, attendance, safety, and teamwork categories that they could choose. The element of choice is always a welcome element in professional development. And this is the day they can choose. You can see on this sheet, there's also stars. Those stars mean that those satisfy teacher relicensure components. That's always an added bonus and icing on the cake. What was different this year about our asynchronous professional development day was that I built the whole thing into our vector system. And that did a couple of things. It was a platform that everybody was familiar with. So I wasn't throwing some new crazy platform that they would have to learn to use. It was familiar. Number two, vector affords reporting. I can tell you exactly how many minutes everybody spent on these asynchronous days. One of the concerns, of course, is how do we know if they did 7.5 hours? I can tell you exactly how much everybody did. And it worked beautifully. I learned a lot about the vector platform, and it's a highly effective and very transferable platform. So this was a big success in terms of the vector platform. So there's our vector. Okay, next one. Okay, March 2nd was our next one for the entire staff. Whoops, go back. There you go. March 2nd was yesterday. So we had our most recent professional development day yesterday. We flip-flopped yesterday. Yesterday, the elementary certified staff had the opportunity to work with Ricky White, and they did it all day yesterday. It was not split up into 2 days. It was a full day training, and our secondary staff spent the same amount of time working in their departments. At this point in the year, the departments are starting to get a good handle on what next year's going to bring. For example, we have a new social studies curriculum on the horizon. The social studies department was able to dive in deep with that, led by their content specialist. Meanwhile, paraprofessionals were working on completing their READ Act trainings, as well as for those that had not, or had already done the READ Act training, we had a number of trainings that aligned with our BLAST categories, belonging, literacy, attendance, safety, all of those. And I often with the paraprofessionals, I create a rotation that's based on those trainings, and then they can rotate through based on facility size and the amount of people. You can go to the next one. In between all of that, on January 16th, we had our second standalone paraprofessional day. So for January 16th, as well as yesterday, in order to get us to a level playing field on all of the literacy trainings, I created individual schedules for the 300 plus paras. So everybody, when they checked in, they had a sheet with their name on it with an individualized schedule. We found that when we got to January 16th, some of them had done modules 1, 3, and 4 of literacy, but not 2. And some, it was honestly sort of all over the place. So I took this on so that we could get everybody leveled out. So we're getting there. Literacy is the focus. This READ Act compliance with our paraprofessionals is the priority on these days, and it's so important, and we're getting there. As Gretchen said, we had 217 now complete after yesterday. We have 77 left, and we've got one more professional development day to go. So we will get there. Yes, we're getting closer and closer each time. So go ahead. Another in-between endeavor was our facilities PD day. So when I came into this position, it's been a priority of mine to not just focus on the teaching staff. Teaching staff is very important. So are our clericals, so are our paraprofessionals, so are our facility staff. And the facility staff, I've been working with for 2 years now to try to figure out how to get some important training for them. The barrier is that, so in November, we had 9 buildings in use on our professional development day, and we rely on this staff to make sure that our buildings are up and running and lights are on and it's warm. So I worked very closely with Corey Karen over in facilities, and we figured out if we, during this February break, if we did 4 2-hour trainings, and he created this complicated rotation where his staff would have to be here and there, and he figured it out, we could get this done. 2 of the days would be 2 different, a group A and a group B, reviewing school day cleaning. 2 of the days, Group A and Group B would be doing summer cleaning. We got through February 17th, and then Mother Nature gave us a giant snowstorm. So we were unable to do the last 3 days. Corey and I are looking at Plan B during the April break. There's 3 days that we are targeting. So fingers crossed, Mother Nature's going to let us get these trainings done. One of the other things that Corey and I are working on, I'm going to record the trainings and build it in Vector so that when he gets new staff or the staff needs a refresher, because it's been so difficult with just simple logistics, getting these in-person trainings, we'll have it housed there. So I think we're going to be able to do it in April, and I'm really excited that we're able to accomplish this. Okay, May 4th, that's our next one. So as Gretchen mentioned a few minutes ago, the READ Act Phase 2 begins. So we will be, and it is, as Rosie, you said, it's a really good use of our professional development days. I'm thrilled to be able to offer this Phase 2 on these professional development days. Gretchen and I are sort of working through how it will work, how we can make sure that it happens, but then still have time, chunks of time on those days to accomplish the other curriculum and other safety and attendance, all of those initiatives as well. So we will be doing Phase 2 of the READ Act. I mentioned a few minutes ago, social studies has new curriculum. That curriculum cycle begins, which means elementary groups are going to have to be working on social studies. We've got our secondary groups. And again, as I mentioned, the Para-READ Act compliance is, we will complete it, those 77 next year. So this is about the time of year, and I know it has something to do with the midwinter blues. I start dreaming about like where are we going to go next year. This is my working idea, so you're getting a preview. So the theme, safari, safety, attendance, family engagement, acceptance, the READ Act, and informed by data. This is the direction, and I even have my fancy picture. You can go to the next one. Fancy picture. The fancy pictures are my favorite thing. Like this will drive me. So maybe all the catalogs, there'll be a zebra one and a rhinoceros one, but you have to have some fun, and I think art is important too. So
So one of the days be, a journey to, Quest Act.
Zoo.
that would be amazing. Yes, yes, we're working on the budget for the entire staff to go on. Yes. There it is. There it is in a nutshell, what we've accomplished, what we're looking forward to, and I would love any questions.
Thank you. I'll start off by first saying thank you for everything you have done to improve our professional development. Board, you have to remember, if you were here 5 years ago, this is my 6th year, what our professional development looked like at that point in time. Again, good work happening. We just had very limited number of days, but we worked really, really hard, and thank you to the board again for allowing us to pursue adding additional professional development days. That's how we ended up with 5 additional days during the actual school year. So we can really spend a lot of effort training up our staff. We moved not only training up our teachers, but now we have even expanded it through negotiations, our paras and other staff to make sure that they receive the training that they need. So just imagine what you're looking at now, just, the hard work, all of the organization, coordination that's needed. We found the right person to really help us move that forward. So I'm just really thankful for all the work that she has done and her and the team who works with her.
I have
to accomplish
a lot of
team
amazing support.
Right. She does.
A lot.
And so I want to make sure, but through your coordination, I really appreciate it. So I'll start off with Superintendent Magus, I think was first, and then Chair Derek Eater.
I think you summarized most of what I was going to say as well, that really, if we expect people to change their practice and continue to improve, we want to make sure that we have high-quality professional learning, and just want to say thank you for what you've done. And also, if you think about how this came to be, it was through a lot of work. It was through support of the board, with particularly with the contract negotiations where we worked in professional learning time, because we heard for years that our teachers, if we were going to want different outcomes, that they needed and wanted to be support in new and better ways. And so I think that this is amazing, and who doesn't like a good Tron theme or a safari theme? I think you bring joy into professional learning, and I think that sometimes there's reluctance around professional learning. I think we all like to learn, but I think sometimes it can be hard to spend the time to do so. But you've offered really high-quality, engaging learning opportunities for every staff member, and thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you because this looks great. And now when we as a board are community members have questions about what does professional development, why are the kids getting another day off? Like, now we have a great place to send them to and this so that they can see exactly and have this tangible outcome to look. And second, I have to work with Vector in my job, and I'm absolutely awful at it. So maybe I'll just show up at your office
Please
one of these
do.
days.
We'll learn
and you
together.
can, and
Yes.
we can get it done, because it's a challenge for me. So I love seeing your enthusiasm about it, and now I may just show up at your office
Please do.
unexpectedly
Yeah.
and you can help me with that. So thank you, seriously, though. I didn't know the depth and the breadth of what you were doing with our staff. And it's great to see, and it seems engaging and, as Superintendent Magus said, joyful. So it's great for our teachers to sit together in community with some joy about learning some new things. Thank you.
Member Loeffler Kemp, and then Member Sadowski.
Yeah, I thank you, Kelly, for what you said, because I think we all would share that same appreciation for knowing more specifically so we can share with community and with parents, but also that the feedback, I've heard from my friends I have in the district has been really positive as well. So thank you for that. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I would echo all of what everyone has shared, and it's just, I recall all the work that we did to try to get these professional development days available to teachers and staff, and I really, it just seems like it's very much taking advantage of those days. Like they're they're very well run, it looks like, and there's lots of choices, and they're just really well thought out, so thank you. I do have one specific little question. I'm just curious because it kind of relates to another thing that we've been talking about at the board table recently, which is AI in the schools. When I am looking at, gosh, these aren't numbered, but it's the one where it says asynchronous P-Day worksheet. And they have all the different options, and I see that some of them are required for all staff and some of them aren't. I really appreciated, first of all, seeing that some of them were marked with stars so that teachers could get relicensure. That was really like a thoughtful touch, and I know that's really important for our teachers. But I'm just curious because, you know, we've been hearing a lot from our community, constituents, our student school board reps, children, things like that, just worried about, just wanting to know what that training looks like. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little more. One of the concerns that I've heard here at the board table is just training to help teachers learn to identify work that is done through AI besides an AI detector, so I'm just wondering about that. And then as a follow-up, like how many, you know, about what percentage of teachers took this? Because I was under the assumption or understanding maybe that all staff took that training. So I'm just curious what percentage took that training.
So AI, I'm going to back up just a little bit to address what AI trainings have been offered throughout the year. So every single one of these professional development days built into either whether you're a secondary teacher doing department work or an elementary teacher working with grade level colleagues within their day of work. And this has all been driven by Julie Stavers here. Julie has, she is our secondary MTSS and curriculum coordinator. No. Yep. Curriculum instruction coordinator. I almost got it. She has been leading the charge, working with a team to develop embedded AI trainings into every single one of these professional development days. So the training that you are seeing here on this asynchronous day is sort of a deeper dive. So you can see within the safety category, AI mistakes in education, AI in the future of education. These are deeper dives from what they've been getting on every single one of these professional development days. We do also have lots of plans in place as we roll into next year and looking at May as well. I can't tell you off the top of my head the percentage that took these. I can definitely pull it and get it to you. My guess, looking at this, because their direction was to choose at least, they had to accomplish one from every one of these categories. And since there's 2 relicensure stars in that same category, that's where you're going to see the most draw, because that has added value in terms of relicensure. Does that answer your question in terms of like what we have been doing with AI throughout the year?
Yeah, it helps make it a little bit more clear. So what I'm hearing is we've had some AI training that's been embedded into every day.
Every
But
single.
maybe not, these weren't required.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that's exactly right. Yes, and there is a district AI training that was required throughout the year, and I was able to track that because it was an asynchronous day. And for those staff that had not completed it before this day, that was a required training for them. So they received a separate email saying that you need to complete the required district level training.
Okay, great.
And then-
Thanks. I might have more questions on that, but I can circle back with you individually too.
Great.
Yep.
And then I also remember in the fall, just to add to, when we were at Denfeld, I remember Cindy Miller doing a training for everybody.
Live.
Live.
Yes.
So that was part of it too. So I think we always want to make sure that we're expanding and doing more.
Yes.
But very much
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah, these trainings have been designed to grow as the year has gone on. Cindy Miller has, she's a teacher within our district, and she's informed a lot of these trainings. And she kicked us off in August with a live training for all certified staff. That's where we began.
Thank you. And we can provide some additional information related to that. As you recall, Cindy Miller and others, the AI implementation team, they presented, I want to say a month and a half ago, regarding this. But what you're asking is specific data on the who, and we can get which teachers were required to take it and the information. So we'll make sure we follow through on getting that information. And also, we will be seeking additional since we opened the door around AI, we just presented during the district advisory committee last night, there was a presentation given by the AI implementation team regarding implementation of, AI in the district and our plans. So the goal is to, one, we want to make sure the advisory committee had a chance to give some feedback. We do plan on some engagement with the community regarding it, our students and staff, in the form of thought exchange as well. But we try to time out some of our thought exchanges with the community and with our students, because we're starting to implement the thought exchange a lot, and we don't want a quick burnout with thought exchange. So there will be additional information coming from our students, families related to our AI implementation, and then we'll make sure we have the data that you're seeking in terms of the staff participation.
Thank you.
Member Mikesel and then Member Lowfoot.
So good to see you here. The first 2 years I was on the board, I was assigned to the Stat Development Advisory Committee. Now it's Member Williams is your school board representative. And I just really could tell in the meetings that I attended how many staff that you have so invested in that committee and doing that committee work and helping you. And I just wasn't sure if you wanted to speak to that group and how they are assisting you in your organization of the days.
Sure, so it is part of state statute that we have as a district a staff development advisory committee. So there are requirements. You need to have a secondary teacher, an elementary teacher. We also have preschool representation. You need to have district parents, administrators, non-certified staff, and all of those are covered multiple times within the committee. And we try to meet monthly. Of course, during the holidays, we don't. And we review what's been done, we look ahead. They help me with, what are our North Stars on those decisions. I ask their advice on things because I am a very good event planner, but I am not a content specialist. I am not a certified teacher. I am not a clerical. We have clerical representation on the committee. So they're imperative in terms of helping guide, because in my position, a lot comes at me. We need AI, we need this, the state statutes. And then you have to take all those pieces and organize them. But they are the experts that I rely on to make those decisions. And we've gotten to be quite a close-knit group. Like there are a lot, I've enjoyed that time with that committee very, very much.
Yeah, I could tell that people were just very dedicated.
Very.
And at least one of the meetings, even the president of the DFT was there.
He's there every time.
And he said that this is, a massive improvement in our professional development days being offered by the district. And so I just, took that to heart, and thank you and that team and everyone else who also assists you. One question I had as I looked over the priorities for next year in the safari, which is adorable. How did you work with other members of our administration and directors to make sure that we're also aligning with our comprehensive achievement and civic readiness goals? So we have those goals as a school district, and it seems as though most of those can kind of fall into some of these categories, but
Yes.
what was the intentionality of those things?
I have frequent standing meetings with across all departments. I meet with transportation, I meet with the SPED team, our new equity director. So there's ongoing conversations, and then we also have alignment meetings where we're all together in the same room. And those are, I have planning documents and those sorts of tools that we utilize. So as I have a meeting with transportation, that gets plugged in, or, I have to I work with our equity director to make sure I understand the equity plan and the action cards and the things that need to be accomplished there. Or like for our American Indian concurrence, non-concurrence, what has been committed to in terms of professional development. And so that's how I keep track. It's meeting, and then bringing everybody together to synthesize. And then when these catalogs come out in the training days, that is the product.
And under the House of Teacher and Equity, there's that alignment committee where the directors are part of. And so that's where we make sure that our action plans and all of our different goals and efforts are brought into the conversation and considered when we are talking about professional development.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us that look under the hood. And I was able to attend the kickoff keynote at the beginning of the school year. And as I was walking out, I was hearing from staff saying this was the best keynote ever, and this has been a great day. So just hearing again more positivity around this work. And so thank you for that.
Member Lowfoot, your light is on still?
Yeah, and actually, you kind of wait, and it's like, oh, she didn't ask that question, he didn't. But then Sarah was our board rep on the on the professional development advisory, and actually with our previous professional development coordinator, I sat on that, and I think it was really the very first time a school board member was invited to that committee, and we kind of navigated that. So I'm really glad we have a presence with you, and because I really just think I learned a lot about just the process of professional development opportunities. So I just think it's a good place for us to listen, a good place for us to see who is coming to the table, because we hear so much about, who's coming up with these ideas, and really it's your colleagues. And sometimes when I first came on, I think there was some hesitancy, like they didn't always want to have to take the heat for what was or wasn't. But I think we've come a long way with our past coordinator and just the commitment we made 6 years ago to have a staff advise, a leader like Annie, come in and do that. So thank you. And thank you, Member Mike Sullivan. We have a lot of committees that we sit on in our community and within our district, and I just really appreciate the commitment we all make to make those meetings, whether it's special education advisory, or it is professional development advisory, or it is transfer advisory, or it is EAC advisory. I mean, we're really committed to being there for our team. I'm really curious about our asynchronous, opportunity, all these little boxes. And my question was, well, one, it's just great. I mean, just the variety, and it's asynchronous. And I remember you gave them many days that they had to put in their 7.5, so it wasn't like we were taking up some precious holiday time. And so can we reuse these? Is there a licensure that we get to offer these, or do we own these now and they can be embedded into future
They live in
days?
Vector now. So if you were to go into the Vector platform and type in APD-S02, that AI training would pop up.
And it's active, and you could
Yes.
could relook at it?
Yes.
Ah, wow.
Yes. And I'll let you know when the facilities
Yeah.
training gets
Well, I don't know if
uploaded
other
too.
board members do it too, but I think it was one of our members a few years back asked for all of us to be on the email that sends out the Vector training. Are you guys getting that?
Yeah, yep.
I'm getting it,
yep,
but I'm
yep.
not doing anything with it, but I do get it.
Yep,
So-
it all lives there.
So that's awesome. And then, again, I think all of us kind of did one of these deep breaths and shook our head and smiled at you when you said you followed up with 300 paraprofessionals and they got individual schedules so that we knew. And that's incredible service to a group of our employees that sometimes don't feel like anybody knows them. And so the fact that they had that kind of attention, I hope, I know that they were appreciative and that they really felt cared for and and knew that somebody was helping them get more learning for their particular job. So, thank you. And as we continue to go forward, that's really a great, a great, I don't know how we can publicize it other than those stories that paras will tell, which we've all heard either in hallways or in my home. I live with 3 employees of our district, so, I do hear about professional development, and it's always, especially, Ricky White, is that the name? Yeah, Ricky.
Yes.
Just incredible, and I hope to maybe to be able to see him in one of the last, will he be at the last one? Can we meet him? Can he come to see us?
Maybe. I need to talk to Simone about that. There are American, incidentally, Ricky White, the funding for that, I wrote a grant for Title II for all of this Indigenous content that I've been able to deliver, and it's all been funded through Title II. And that's, once if you can connect all those dots, like those possibilities exist, right? So Ricky is helping us with attendance and belonging, but then also like I was able to have this be part of an Indigenous grant. So it's a great,
Thank you.
it's great. It's been, again, a blessing. So I'm hopeful he'll be back. Here's the good news. His presentation that he did yesterday, we recorded, and we have permission from him to load it into Vector. So I'll be going down to my audio-visual guy tomorrow to get that recording, and I'll be working on whatever edits I need to do, but it's going to live in Vector. So this cultural competency training, that's a difficult one for teaching staff to get their cultural competency training. We'll have it in-house, and it's Ricky White, who's so charismatic. So if short of being able to meet him in person, you'll be able to see it.
And go ahead. I just want to say, when it comes to the work we do with our American Indian Parent Advisor Group, when we meet with our tribal consultation, when you've talked to people, you hear the question, what is it that we're doing to make sure that our educators are ready to meet the needs of our American Indian students? And I think that the work we've done this year is a really solid example of how we're trying to make sure that people are trained up and have an expansion of their skills and their understanding of culture. And it doesn't just apply for American Indian students. I think what we learn about bias and working with people and diversity, equity, and inclusion, that those are all things that are
Ricky's
alive and
line
well.
is, "What's good for Native American children is good for all children." And it's actually what's good for Native American children is good for all of us. Yeah, that's his overarching message.
Member Lawford?
Yeah, just one more comment as I look at Gretchen too and Julie out there, and just a really solid committee of the whole meeting tonight with some incredible work that lifts lifts us up too as we face the challenges that come ahead too, that your work and your presentations and the knowledge you share with us so that, we feel like, we're moving and capturing everything we can capture, and, we have great staff and colleagues, and I know you don't work alone. I know that the people that are in your departments and how you collaborate. So again, just really appreciate the presentations tonight.
None of this
And they're back there
happens
too.
alone.
And they're here. And they're here every month, 3 to 4 times a month. So we appreciate it.
And our team really appreciates your flexibility too. I know that sometimes we're, like, especially this past month when we've been pivoting from, Operation Metro Surge support to trying to find extensive budget reductions, that we're all trying to make sure that we're doing all of that work well. And I realize that sometimes there are bumps in the road when it comes to agendas and things of that nature, but we really appreciate the flexibility of the board around that, and we apologize as well. when there are those bumps. But our team's working hard, and we really appreciate them, and I think that there's no better example than what we see from our professional learning.
Thank you.
Next up, we have another presentation by our very own Executive Director of Finance and Business Services. Thank you, Annie. Simone Zunic. So I'm just going to turn over to Simone, who's going to provide us with a update related to budget reductions and reallocation, and I'll just turn it over to Simone right away.
Thank you. The superintendent and I both will be presenting on this. I believe you've given everybody a copy. We have the timeline, and then we also have our guiding change.
So looking at our guiding change, and I know some of these things are things that we've talked about in other meetings and in workshops, but I think it's important to contextualize. I think that's we always try and be open and listen to feedback, and I think sometimes we jump into the budget conversation without doing a high-level overview of where we're at. I think that's really important, and I think this guiding change really grounds us on where we're at. So the three areas of the guiding change are: what is the reality, or our why? What are the parameters of how we're going to do it, or how are we going to do it? And then also, what are the results? What is it that we're hoping for? So really, because of the increased costs in special education, transportation, and insurance, we have about a $4 million budget deficit. And I mentioned that around the state, there's over $220 million worth of budget deficit. So we're not alone in this work, but it is hard work to continue to do, to year after year reduce millions of dollars. You go beyond cutting the fat to cutting the meat to cutting the bone, and it's very hard. And we're trying to make the choices that have the least impact on classrooms and other things that are laid out in this document. But why do we do so? We have inflation costs, we have unfunded mandates, and so that's something we want to make sure that when we're lobbying with our legislature, that we're focused on not having new things. You know, we have some new money. Let's not create new things that we fund for a year or two that then is on the backs of the district's finances to figure out. We do have stable enrollment. In fact, we have increasing enrollment, which is a positive, and it speaks to the quality and standing of Duluth Public Schools in the public. And we continue to focus on our priority areas of supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems. But then really the how. We're going to continue to focus on those things. Even though we have to reduce, we still are going to focus on supporting every student. We still are going to focus on advancing equity, and we still have to focus on improving systems. We're not going to break any laws to do this. We're not going to rob a bank to fund our classrooms. But we also may have policies in place that have been hard forged by our policy committee and others, and by MSBA. We need to follow policy, we need to follow regulation, and we need to follow our contracts. I think a lot of times people jump to the conclusion of like, oh, why don't we have a pay freeze, or why don't we change our health benefits or something like that. Those are all things that are part of labor negotiations, and it would be considered unfair labor practices unless people all wanted to agree. So those are things that we have to keep in mind, and we want to be very respectful of that labor management process. We're not going to go into statutory operating debt. Simone will definitely not have that while she's here, nor will we afterwards, and so that's important. And we've talked about fund balance. We can't keep dipping into the fund balance. It's like spending on a credit card with a household budget. We can't keep doing that. And we do have a decent budget, but we have to make sure that we're thoughtful about that fund balance as well. We also made promises to the community, and I think that's really, really at the heart of some of what we're talking about, because we said that we're going to maintain essential social, emotional, and mental health supports, that will continue to support high school schedule improvements, and that will maintain essential academic supports. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can keep everything, but we have to keep the spirit of it, and we want to do as much as we can to support each of those areas, because those were promises to our community. And we very well may need to go out for a referendum sometime in the future, and we want to make sure that we followed through on those promises. We also want to make sure that we're doing things with stakeholder input. I'll talk about some of the things we're doing related to that, but I was very impressed to see that we had over 1,000 responses, or 1,000 participants in our, not responses, 1,000 participants in the thought exchange that we just launched less than 24 hours ago. So we have a lot of stakeholder input into this process, but it's not going to be just by no means is it going to be any sort of group think. We need to make sure that we're looking at our priorities, we're having sound conversation, we're making sure that we have input from our principal leaders. They're very much at the core of what we do, but we want to make sure that we're using proper data when we're doing that. So that is important to us. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure we have a balanced budget for this next year. We want to make sure that we have a transparent and engaging process. We want to make sure that, and this is if there's one slogan that would be on a T-shirt, it would be prioritize and protect classroom needs as much as possible. Unfortunately, we can't completely protect classroom needs. When we cut, $5 million a year over the course of 3 years, there are going to be impacts on classrooms. There are likely to be impacts on class size. But I think we're already seeing input, actually the input from the thought exchange so far, the top priority that we see, and we'll share more as we learn more, the top priority that we see is be careful about class sizes. That's what we're hearing from parents, that's what we're hearing from staff, and I think it's important too. We'll also be sharing that with students at some point as well for them to give input, because student voice is important. So protect classroom needs as much as possible. And develop forecast budgets. I think that's one of the, if there were like feathers in Executive Director Simone Zunich's cap before she leaves, one would be that we've adopted a system of budget forecasting. When you go on a trip out into the wilderness, you want to look at what the weather's going to do, and I think that really having a better forecast of where we're going for the next few years is really, really helpful. We also thinking about, I like this phrase, examine all legacy practices with a lens of fiscal accountability. And what we mean by that is a lot of times organizations do what they do because they've always done it that way. And we have worked really hard in a very brief period of time to, the saying that we're using lately is we need to look under every stone, with no stone left unturned. So even though some of the things might seem ridiculous that we look at and are things that we're not going to necessarily explore in too great a depth, we do look at everything. There are many suggestions that we're going through and spending time on, because something that might initially seem like a foolish idea, when you look into it more deeply, might actually bear fruit and be worth looking at. But then also that we need to protect the district's financial health by seeking efficiencies and finding new resources. So it's not just about cutting. It's about making sure that we are leaner and stronger in what we do as much as possible. So that is our guiding change. Anything you want to add related to the guiding change? I'm not trying to steal your thunder there. The other document that we have is our, let me just pull this up. Oh, I'm casting into my conference room upstairs, but that is not where I'm meaning to cast. There we go. So how much are we talking about? What kind of money are we talking about? We have that link to the guiding change right off the bat, because that's really important. But really, $4 million is our target, which is about 2.8% of our overall general fund budget. So that is the amount we're looking at. I would say, when I look at the scope of what other districts are reducing by, I'd say it's standard. There are a few that are reducing percentage-wise by a lot more, and there's some that are reducing by less. But I would say this is kind of what we're hearing, and I brought up this previously. Prior Lake Savage, they have about 8,500 students, and they've been reducing by $5 million each year for the past 3 years. So it's not. I think sometimes people jump to, and I'm not trying to be defensive in saying this, but I can understand where the assumption might come from. Like, what are we doing wrong that we keep having to cut? What is it that we're doing wrong? And I think seeing the reductions in almost every district across the state over the course of the past few years shows that there's a funding formula issue that needs to be addressed by the state. So with that $4 million, we're looking at $3 million from our sites and $1 million from district office. And looking at the proportion of that, that's about 4.11% of the salary, benefits, and contracted services at the sites, which is 1.25 million for elementary is what we're looking at, and 1.75 for secondary. At district office, one thing that we're hearing too, it's the fourth most commented on piece on Thought Exchange right now, is district office, thinking about like how can we seek greater efficiency in district office, how can we have reductions at district office. So you can see that we're looking at about a 13% decrease in our district office budget of salaries, benefits, and contracted services, because we realize in tight times we want to buckle down, we want to prioritize our classroom spending, and we are looking at making much more serious reduction at district office to align with the priorities that we put forward in the guiding change. We also recognize that if we reduce by that, our services can't always be exactly the same. You might have a little longer wait time hearing back from something from human resources, or you might have something with transportation might take a little longer. Or, we're trying to make sure that we are still keeping to our efforts of improving systems. What is our timeline? Like, why? How are we getting here? Why are we here? Why are we here? That's the quintessential question. But do you want to walk us through this a little bit?
Sure. Back in December, we completed our audit, and that was presented to the school board on the same night as the Truth in Taxation. I sat here with Rob from Whipley. And in January, we started an overview of our budget reduction needs. We completed our first round of small group school board member meetings. We started drafting an updated guiding change document, and we started with our initial cabinet and department meetings, and then we had a board workshop guiding change overview. On February 11th, we had a director's meeting with principals. February 25th, the senior leaders met with principals. March 2nd, yesterday, senior leaders, small group board meetings wrap-up, and a district advisory committee. And we launched Thought Exchange, staff, students, and families. March 3rd, cabinet budget meeting, a committee of the whole board update, which we're doing right now. Tomorrow morning, we're having a principal budget meeting with all our principals. March 9th, East staff meeting, potential reschedule. The superintendent and I will be out there. We'll be doing all these together. March 10th, Denfield staff budget meeting, and March 11th, the Denfield public meeting. So we have a lot of meetings coming up. We hope we can speak with all of our groups as possible. Last year, we went to every site. That was just not feasible this time, so we're doing them more in bigger group meetings. And I hope we can address everybody's questions. Do you have anything else, John? Thank you.
Yeah, so there's 10, yeah, thanks.
It didn't just end yet on March 11th. March 18th, Thought Exchange stakeholder feedback ends at 12 midnight. So we launched that Thought Exchange survey yesterday, and the feedback, we will hopefully get all of that together by midnight on March 18th. That was kind of exciting yesterday to start that process. March 24th, we have a regular school board meeting. We'll be informing the board on budget reductions. End of March, notification of displacement. April 7th, we have a committee of the whole. I'll be presenting the preliminary budget overview. May 5th, I'll do another committee of the whole revised budget overview. And June 9th, I'll do a second revised budget overview. Now, please remember, May 18th is when the legislative session is supposed to wrap up. So there might be a change between, May 5th and the June 9th meeting. And then on June 16th, I will bring forward to you at the regular school board for budget adoption.
And just as and I mentioned some of the things we're doing with the Thought Exchange, and I won't go into great detail, but just to show you some of the the initial amount of participation that we have. So even since I looked at it when we were here a couple minutes ago, the number's gone up. So we have 1,036 people, individual people have interacted with us so far, and they've shared 826 thoughts. And there were 31,317 rankings. So basically that means that there were different interactions where people were thinking about what other people were thinking over 30,000 times. So that's pretty powerful. And we try and get a ratings ratio, which is like how often people are rating different things. You look for a rating ratio between 15 and 20. The rating ratio is really high at 38, which means people are really interacting with this heavily. And then some of the topics that people are considering are, as I mentioned, class size is number one, professional development, teacher salary, administrative overhead, and I mentioned that we're trying to take a bigger reduction from district there too, reading and math intervention, technology use, behavior intervention, and those different topics. But really, I know that we've just started, but this is powerful tool so far.
Member Sadowski?
Yeah, I hopped on there and took, I just was curious since we've been hearing a lot about Thought Exchange, and obviously it was sent out to staff and parents. So I went ahead and I just wanted to take a peek and see what that experience was like. I liked it was very user-friendly. I do have a couple questions. A lot of you could rank things, with, there were 5 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, center. So was there any thought given to like 5 versus 6? Is that something that can be tailored in Thought Exchange? Because if you have an even number, it makes someone kind of forced to go one way or the other. Are there any considerations of that, or what were some of the thought process that went into that, if any? Just, it's something that I've given a thought to.
Sure.
Just because for some of them, I was like, oh, I'm going to click this middle one, versus if you have 6 stars. So that was one question I have, and then I have another one.
Okay. I'm not sure if you can change the number of stars. The thought exchanges I've taken part in before, they're all like a 5-star system. So I'm not sure if you can modify that, but I'll be glad to ask and see if that's possible for the future.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, oh, do that. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing to think about. I've thought about that in my own other parts of my life when I'm doing surveys and things like that, just to get someone to
For me too.
go one way or the
yeah.
other, but not the middle. So
Anytime somebody asks me to like give a specific number, like 1 to 4 or something like that, I'm always wanting to say like 2.7. Like people find that frustrating for me.
And then my follow-up question, I don't remember having to put an email in to take the survey. So can people take the survey then as many times as they want? I'm just curious, like that could skew some of the data in there, I would think.
My understanding is you can only do it once, but I'm not sure if it's once per device or by cookies, or I'm not sure how it tracks them.
Yeah, just
Jen?
curious about that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Just curious how that's kept. Yeah.
I just happen to have had a training with Thought Exchange. It is set with 5 stars. There's not an option for us to make that change. I don't know if there's something within their system that they could do, which I think we could explore, but there's no option when we're putting them together to change the number of stars. And then it'll remember you on your device. So if you were to go back into the Thought Exchange for a second time, it's going to ask you if you want to give another thought, because you can give another thought into it. But then it'll also let you go back, and if you want to go back in later and do more ratings, you can go back in and do more ratings. But it pretty much lets you go back and like pick up right where you were left off. But you can do it from different devices again, too, if you wanted to do it from different devices.
I like that feature of, because we heard from Superintendent Magus that more people have done it just since he looked the last time, and there might be other ways to engage other people's thoughts that they come up with.
So if you already took it, and maybe you took it from your phone, if you were to go back to it again and you go to the view results up at the top, it kind of says view results, you can add more things to it. If you click on that, it'll let you go back in and do more rankings if you want to.
Okay, thank you, Director Larva.
I would also say I've been really impressed with their responsiveness. I know we have had questions come up as we're doing this, and like there was an email with some questions, and I contacted them, and they like went, even though it's like a multi-million-dollar company, they got the owner involved and got other people involved, and so they're crafting responses for us as we speak to some of those questions. So I think that they've done a lot of work with MASA and AASA, the superintendent associations, and so I think I've just been really impressed with they're no tool is perfect, but I think that they're trying to find new ways of us having conversation. I think one of the things that impresses me as well is it's not who shares the idea, it's what is the value of the idea and how are people perceiving the idea, because I think sometimes in a group conversation, if one person makes a suggestion, people might blow it off because of who suggested it. And making sure that we have, it eliminates bias, and I think it really allows for quality of conversation. But again, these budget reductions are not easy. I think, as Member Dirk Eater said in her interview the other day, I think that we're trying to make some really difficult choices. And it's hard, but we're trying to really lean into the work and do its best. And we're actually doing it, as you saw from our timeline, we're having to do it more quickly than we have in the past. And what it comes down to in many respects is we're trying to make what are the least worst decisions that we can make. None of these reductions are going to be things that we want to do, but unfortunately we have to. So we're moving forward with as much thoughtfulness as possible. Anything else you'd add?
Not at this time, thank you.
Member Lafleur-Kim?
Thank you so much for this update, as well as for the timeline. I'm just curious, do you think between when the legislative session ends, May 18th and June 16th, that's less than a month, that's like enough time? I know sometimes when we've done this, we've added an additional board meeting, a week or two at the end of June, just in case we needed it. We added it and held it to make sure we had time to see what comes out of the legislative session. So I'm just being sensitive, I guess, to that and decision-making.
Absolutely. I believe we did it last year, so I'm totally open to that. That's why, I'm hoping we have, if they close successfully and we have some good information, I'll be able to revise the budget and present that to you on June 9th. But if the board would like another session on that, I'd be more than happy to do that. So I'm kind of at a hurry up and wait and see what's happening right now, so.
This is what you were referring to, and we're more than glad to add more time. I think too, just the way that we did things last time, and I'm open to change if we wanted to, was that we inform the board about what the budget reductions are, and then the board, through governance, approves or denies the budget at that point later in the process. But we also want to make sure that we're very receptive to board ideas. It's also hard sometimes when we have, a variety of opinions, but always feel free to reach out, and we're trying to meet with people as frequently as possible. But if you have questions anytime, feel free to text or give me a call, and I'll be glad to respond to any board member questions or comments.
Member Banks?
Thank you. And quick question. Sorry. You alluded to the $3.7 billion surplus that was just announced a few days ago. Has our legislative delegation said anything to ISD 709 administrators related to our legislative platform? now that this budget surplus has been announced, have they reported back or suggested that we would get at least some support from the legislature?
We haven't heard specifically on that front, but I think that there is evidence that they were very much listening when we met with them. I've seen some bills introduced by various members, and I remember when we had conversation, there was conversation around maybe greater flexibility in our long-term facilities money so that might be used for safety, and I think that there's been a bill introduced there. So know that your work and your advocacy is really paying off in action at the Capitol. But I think that this, I can't remember what day it was that they announced that. It was just a couple of days ago. So I think people are still trying to get their sea legs under them and kind of see what it means. But I really caution people to look at this as like a spendthrift, like let's spend a bunch of money on new things when you can see across the whole state, the core of education, we're having to chip away slowly at it throughout all the districts in the state. And so I'd rather that it be put towards just the general funding formula or special education cross-subsidy, or there's that commission that is having to look at where they're going to find reductions in special education expenses, and also another group that's looking at the compensatory education funding. If we could maybe start off with, let's not take money away from there, as opposed to let's spend new things to find money on, that would be really advantageous for our schools. I know there's also some things in the works related to insurance and things like that, and I think that we need to really learn more about what that means and what the cost would be before we advocate for or against those things.
I have Member Sadowski and then Member Meixel.
I think Member Mike's was first.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I was more specifically thinking about special ed and our needs here locally, and so.
Yeah, haven't heard anything specific, but boy, if they could put that money towards a special ed cross-subsidy, even if it was for a couple years, that would be very, very impactful for not just for us, but other districts across the state.
Member Meixel and then Member Sadowski.
Thanks for the update. I know Member Lofald and I were able to participate in the MSBA Coffee and Conversation this morning. And as the superintendent pointed out, many districts are dealing with budget shortfalls in the upcoming year, and that was evidenced also by the conversations that we were having over the course of the hour this morning, from small districts to large districts. It seemed as though everyone on the screen was feeling angst about decisions that they were having to make at their board tables as well. But we are here in Duluth, and the people who elected us are here in Duluth, and so they care about the decisions that we have to make. I appreciate that we have thought exchange, and I'm so glad that we have, increased participation as opposed to other surveys that we've sent out, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to get more input via that. And I just hope that everyone realizes that's just one tool that we're using in order to get feedback. Obviously, we have all these other meetings. But this is for people who don't necessarily always, have the time or the energy to engage us as a group or the district as a whole, this is a quick and easy way that you're able to get some of your opinions put out there and allow other people to see them. So just wanting to make sure that people understand that we value their input in that way. The other thing I wanted to also point out, and I do enjoy a good school district website, but I hadn't been to all of our pages recently. But I see that our budget page is being kept up and kept very current. So that's another place for community and our taxpayers to go and look and see what our current numbers are, as well as some frequently asked questions are answered there. And some of these have to deal, when I hopped on Thought Exchange this morning, seeing some of the suggestions where I was like, that's a great suggestion, but legally we can't do that. It's like, ooh, no, there's a state statute that says we have to have that program. And so some of those questions have been answered there. Maybe they've been there for a long time. Maybe you just did it this morning. I don't know. But thank you to the staff that's trying to keep that updated. And again, in case there are people listening who are wondering, where can I get more information besides contacting us, you can also look here to get some questions answered as well.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank Director Zunich for your, all the work that you've put into our small group meetings to just keep us informed. And also, you know, as a school board, we review our finance budget update every month at our HR business services and then kind of bring it to the board. So I know that we've been having those discussions and kind of watching those trends. So just thank you for your work on that. It's really helpful for us, especially with the short timeline. And I know that that's a lot of extra time, along with, Superintendent Magus and Assistant Superintendent Bonds too, of course. So just wanted to say thank you. It's really helpful in these challenging times with decisions none of us want to make, just to at least be as informed as we can be.
Thank you. Seeing no additional green light, that concludes our COW meeting for the month. Thank you.